All right, let's talk about this. Speaking of cancel culture, let's talk about people who should be canceled. From the Daily Mail, Black Lives Matter secretly used $6 million in donations to buy luxurious 6,500 square foot mansion with 7 bedrooms and parking for 20 cars in Southern California in 2020, where the leaders have filmed YouTube videos. Absolutely amazing. Emails show the firm wanted to keep the purchase a secret, despite filming a video on the home's patio in May. The news comes as the foundation faces federal scrutiny for alleged misuse of donation funds and comes on the heels of criticism of co-founder Patrisse Cullors. Cullors, 38, came under fire last year for a slew of high-profile property purchases. She resigned after facing backlash from critics and supporters. And I'm willing to bet that if you go to any Democrat, activist, or left-wing person and say, hey, this is bad, right? They'll go, well, I mean, but so what? I mean, well, this is not Black Lives Matter. And it's just, you can point out the money's missing, that their address isn't real, that they bought mansions. This lady's got multiple homes, and they'll still just be like, but. Yeah. You see, I don't know if there's an equivalent. Is there an equivalent to like BLM on the right? Not really.
No.
Nowhere
Black
for you.
Lives Matter is an aberration on society, and it's very unique. It's like a communist
aberration.
movement.
It's a scam.
That's a bold statement, Ian.
Intentionally seeded. I mean, whether or not the communists wanted to create it, I don't think so. But it's very it's been infiltrated.
Well, and the person who's done a lot of good reporting on this, because I just want to give him a shout out. I used to work with him, Andrew Kerr. He's at, I believe, the Washington Examiner now. And he was the one who broke this story about last year. Black Lives Matter has this like $60 million war chest, essentially. And he found out that there was no one in charge of it for 8 months. Like, nobody knew where this money was, what they were doing with it, who actually had access to it. And then Patrisse Cullors, who had resigned over buying all of these homes and the backlash that accompanied that, claimed that there were 2 other people who were supposed to be in charge of BLM's finances. And then they found out that those 2 people had never even officially taken over that position. And they still haven't provided any answers. They've tried to delay the reporting of their previous fiscal year finances. And just across the board, there's all this corruption that's going on in BLM. And like, to me, this is just the latest example of how irresponsible they've been with all of this money. I think a lot of people probably donate to BLM not to look racist, honestly. I don't think they actually know like the ins and outs of the organization.
It's a cult.
I support the concept that Black lives do matter and white lives do matter, and we should focus on class issues. But when I say it's an aberration, I'm talking about the corporate structure that's taking money and buying houses, and the people like this should all be transparent, and it should all be on some sort of blockchain. I mean, it's a little it's a little early for blockchain.
Look at this house.
Well, that's a nice
This
house.
Conyers, Georgia house.
Who's buying this stuff? Who are these top brass anyway? These people.
That's an awesome house right there.
It's beautiful.
I would love to buy something
totally
like
go for
that.
it.
She has, this Patrisse Cullors, excellent taste in homes. It's just absolutely amazing.
Impeccable.
Wow.
Look at this one. Even this one's just so nice. It's got a little
a nice backyard.
They made like a little barn. It's got 2 stories. Wow.
That's nice.
Impeccable. This. If I was going to be running an international nonprofit that was taking in money with no accountability that I could then use to my own discretion, I would totally buy these exact same houses.
These are nice houses.
You might even be able to write them off.
Maybe start a business with them, rent them out, and then when you get exposed, you just resign and then go get to be rich for the rest of your life.
Yeah, or go work for another activist organization that would be more than happy to have you, because you can't ever really be canceled if you work for people like this. And I think it's interesting that Black Lives Matter they started out trying to claim that they were all about like the police brutality issue, and then they started bailing out like actual criminals. So I don't know if you guys remember the story a few months ago, I think it was. There was a situation in Louisville where this Democratic activist who was planning on running for like city council or something, his name is Quintez Brown, he tried to murder a mayoral candidate.
Oh yeah.
And was locked up for that. And apparently he was upset that this guy who was a Democrat like wasn't left wing enough for him. BLM went and bailed him out of jail, and you had all of these Democrats like praising this guy for how great he was as an activist like last year. And
just think about Kyle Rittenhouse.
He attempted to murder a politician.
And BLM bailed him out. And this was at the exact same time that the Freedom Convoy protesters had their funds seized on Give, Send, Go and all of these other financial platforms.
Was there any question that he attempted to murder the guy?
No, he
None.
walked into the office and they were like, "How can we help you?" And he pulled out a gun.
Why
and
isn't
started
that guy
shooting.
in jail right now? Why
they
is he not
bailed
in
him
prison?
out.
Paid his bail.
What is he like? Okay, so he's bail's another story. If he's not a flight risk, maybe then that's another conversation
No,
completely.
he's crazy.
But that this corporation is bailing out people is
Yep.
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter bailed him out.
Yes.
What happened in Illinois? The state gave $300,000 to Black Lives Matter. Kamala Harris has tweeted out a fundraiser for Black Lives, not for Black Lives Matter,
Minneapolis Bail
to
Fund,
bail out
yeah.
the rioters who were, I'll be careful here. The riots were very much associated with Black Lives Matter, but I don't want to accuse the organization of being the same thing, but very much so. The left is overt in doing all of this stuff. You know how I feel when we're talking about Twitter, this is why I was like, does it matter? Do we care? Because at this point, it's like, why are we acting like we have anything to do with those people? For all, the way I see it is, get away from the cities, take care of yourself, because these lunatics are going to go smash windows and destroy businesses. There's no reasoning with them. There's no conversation. We are seeing some of them get charged and sent to jail. This is, a relatively recent thing where people are actually getting charged and convicted. But it's like 2 or 3 here or there out of the hundreds or thousands that were going through each of these cities and destroying them. So at a certain point, it's like, I just don't consider them to be like citizens of the world, of the country that I live in. There's 2 distinct countries and there's no point interacting. The economy of Antifa and BLM does not in any way interact with the economy here of me. So I just ignore it. It's just, what's the point right now? Oh, Black Lives Matter ripped off all a bunch of dumb people. They're happy they got ripped off. They don't care. We're complaining about an organization we didn't donate to. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, you know what, man? Let people be ripped off. Yeah. There was a point where I wanted to go up to people and be like, listen, they're ripping you off. They're taking your money and they're buying houses. But they don't care. They like it. So then what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing and don't get derailed by it. That's for sure. You make better software technology. I'm not going to stop making better social media tech because there's dumb racists out there. I will acknowledge them. I'm not going to completely ignore them, but I'm not going to let them deviate me from my path. And you should do the same. Continue on your path. Strong.
I think the issue is there was a point where there was an argument between left and right that we were one country and we were going through we're having a bitter period in our relationship. Then at some point, the other half of the relationship started throwing bricks and fire bombs and mortars. And at that point, you should be like when if you're fighting with your significant other, when they start hitting you is when you need to leave.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it's like, you want to burn down cities. The people who want to stay there and are fine with it, I've already given my 2 cents. Like, you need to get away from that. If you don't want to, okay. Like there's a woman being battered by her husband, and you say get away from him, and then she won't. At a certain point, you're like, I've tried what I can try. If she won't leave, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about a lot of fellow conservatives is that they still like desperately want the approval of the left, whether it's like corporate media. I mean, for example, I'll go back to the Trump administration. One of my biggest complaints with them was that they were constantly feeding scoops and, leaking to the New York Times and the Washington Post. And it's like, why are you constantly rewarding the people who hate you? No matter what you do, these people are never going to think that you're a good person. Right. They're never going to accept you. They're never going to think the way that you do about issues or policy. They're always going to think that you're evil. And yet constantly, so many people on the right fall into this trap of thinking, if I could just do this one thing, I could change their mind.
This is part of the reason it was so frustrating to me to watch Trump try to get on the side of the media. Yes. And he would make fun of them and he's like, oh, line mainstream media or whatever. But and at the end of the day, he was like, well, I really actually do care what the New York Times says about me.
He kept doing sit-down interviews with them.
Exactly. Why was the Trump administration inviting people from CNN to go have background briefings with administration officials and letting them have exclusive quotes in interviews and stories? It's crazy to me.
It was Trump's nostalgia.
Yeah.
Why didn't Trump get on Gab or Minds?
Why didn't he do a daily YouTube video blog? I mean, he had everything in front of him, but he's from the 50s, 1950s or whenever he was born.
Or he didn't have anybody in his administration who could tell him like, hey, you need to directly connect with people better.
I think it was kind of both, right? I think part of it was that he longed for the days when he was adored by the media and was this, superstar that could do no wrong, and people really glorified him. And then it was also the staffing issues, where he did have a lot of staff members who were either actively undermining his administration or just really stupid and not very good at their jobs.
Well,
ignorant. That's a good way, because they just didn't know about the technology. They didn't know how to do it.
Is it
not necessarily stupid? They
Yeah,
might have
both.
also been stupid. I don't know.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.